Oh, Cindie Christiansen, all the way from Copenhagen, Denmark. It
all the
is
way.
all the way, and it's normally we'd be reminiscing about the food tour in
Yes,
Copenhagen in December, which feels like 5 years ago at this point. Uh,
absolutely.
oh my God, March has had like 300 days.
Exactly. That's how I feel also.
Oh my God, I think it's a worldwide thing.
Yeah.
We'd be talking about Copenhagen's food scene. We'd be talking about your business and your growing business, and we'll get into that. Times are dictating a different kind of conversation these days, unfortunately. You are, however, the owner of Foods of Copenhagen. For those who don't know, what is Foods of Copenhagen all about, and what makes your experiences so unique?
All right. That's an important question. So first
Key
of all,
question.
I, I call Foods of Copenhagen a boutique gastro company.
Okay.
We do everything from food tours to gastro events, also gastro travels. I like to bring people to, for example, the Faroe Islands for like a 3-day tour up there. So food tours, gastro events, and gastro travels.
What does a typical food tour look like in Copenhagen that you provide?
All right, a typical one for us at least is to showcase a very traditional and a traditional cuisine that has a long history, but also the very innovative and the modern food scene. So all of our tours start with traditional and move to the modern, to the innovative. Copenhagen has been through a major change the last 15 years, so we want to show the whole aspect for people to understand where we came from and where Copenhagen is now. Because for us locals, it's also a big it's a new thing that people come here to eat, and primarily for the gastronomy. It's also new to us.
Right, and that's what I was and that's what I was kind of getting at. It's a fairly new thing,
Yeah,
but you haven't settled with just Copenhagen. You mentioned the Faroe Islands. How does that work? How do you coordinate that? How do you get people to the Faroe Islands? And what does a 3-day gastro experience look like on the islands themselves?
yeah. So the Faroe Islands, just I fell in love with the Faroe Islands, to be honest, and that's also why I started Foods of Copenhagen. I love Copenhagen. So whenever I go a place and I fall in love, I think like, okay, could we bring people here? Can I give other people the same experience that I have right now? And so I went out there to see everything, and I thought we need to do something up here because in one way it's very, very different from Copenhagen, but on the other side it's very much the same. I mean, Faroe Islands is part of Denmark Kingdom,
Hmm.
so it made sense. So we do one day in Copenhagen with the chef here. We do foraging. We go to the urban Copenhagen to find our berries. We cook with the chef. We go to a Michelin restaurant in the evening, and then we all fly to the Faroe Islands the day after to spend 2 days in the nature. I mean, I love food and I love nature, so I combine those two things in relaxed settings, but also fine dining.
That all sounds very, very terrible.
It is
Oh
terrible,
my
but it's.
God,
I would tell you, however, it's like we do a lot on those 3 days. People are tired when they go to bed.
I
I think
believe it.
I slept for a week after
Yeah,
the
I
first
believe it.
trip.
And it's not just the food, it's the experience. You're out, you're experiencing nature, you're outdoors all the
Yeah,
time, and you're combining travel, food, and culture all in three
exactly.
days, right?
And a lot of wine, I would say also.
Okay, well that would explain the week long the week long hibernation. But
Exactly.
the story of Foods of Copenhagen, how it got started can be found online, and it's a pretty cool story for anyone who wants to Google Foods of Copenhagen. Please do. It's an amazing story. Cindy's an amazing woman who reinvented herself. But you proudly support local vendors, locally grown
Yes.
foods. Talk about the impact your food experiences have had to visitors of the city and then to locals who
Mm,
may not have known it even existed.
yeah. I mean, first of all, as you say, it's very important to me to support the local community here. It also makes our tours quite expensive, actually, because we do pay for their time when they take their time to meet our guests, the food, the drinks, everything. But I think is one of the most important things for food tours these days. We need to support our communities because if they're not there, we don't have the unique experiences. And also, I want to take people at at the smaller places and a place that are not actually not set up for food tours, if
Hmm.
that makes sense.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that's what we provide to the community. I don't believe that much in the whole commercial part of it, that we promote them, because that's not necessarily the idea behind it. For people, as I said, we bring people to places that are not a setup for a food tour. We bring them behind the scenes. We bring them to places that are as passionate about food and drinks in Copenhagen as we are. I don't know. Do you remember the cider place, for example?
Yes, very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not a place where people know and they could not go there on their own. So we try to create this setting of a unique experience that you will not find on your own. That what we provide the travelers. Yeah.
Curated, but not so
Yeah.
much curated.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
I want to. I don't want people to be on a tour. I want to be there with me, and I'm a local, and I'm their host. I never see ourselves as guide. I probably mentioned that before, but we are hosting people.
That's what I try to promote on my end as a food tour guide myself. And we have conversations, throughout the year about how you're doing and kind of exchange ideas. And I look forward to kind of more of those exchanges. You're not providing so much of a food tour, you're providing an experience where the people are creating with you, be it a walking tour, be it a culture tour. We're doing food tours. It's the soul of the people in the community through the food that they make, but we're all unified in the enjoyment of what is being made, because ultimately food is the great unifier. We all need it to live and be healthy, but if we can do that collectively and learn, that's you're going far beyond a food tour.
Exactly.
Itself.
Yeah.
Right. But here comes the pandemic, COVID-19. Difficult decisions over the past few weeks, and in this foreseeable future, restaurants, it's hit especially hard. Independent small business owners like yourself also hit very, very hard. How have you coped? How have you adapted?
Yeah, it's a good question. First of all, I'm really taking one day at a time, because I think things are changing so much. But one thing is, I'm really trying to keep the positive attitude towards this, see what we can learn, how can we be creative, and then just let's see what happens, because nobody knows, right? So one thing is like, how do you adjust all the bookings you have in the calendar. You had like the busiest year ahead of you, and suddenly you are just refunding everyone. You have a clear calendar. That is mentally tough. So that's one side of everything. Coping with that is definitely mindfulness. A lot of meditation going on here in my little house in Copenhagen.
I hear you. I hear you.
On the other side, actually, to be honest, my biggest worry was our suppliers. The people we go to, they also have small business. How will they survive? I mean, you're forced to close down restaurants, everything. I mean, they have so much staff. So actually, I was at home and thought about how can we do something. Also, because I'm a person, I'm not very good just at sitting and waiting and listening to how bad everything is. So I decided to do something called I call it a food gift, the favorites of the locals. So my living room is transformed into a packaging station with all kind of different local produce, from licorice to local honey to canned fish,
right,
to Easter eggs. It's a lot of work, but I feel it makes a difference. I love when I can go down to the local chocolate shop and buy 100 packages of Easter eggs and send that out.
And you're not only giving people a taste of what Copenhagen and Denmark as a whole is all about, but you're also one of the important points of the supply and demand chain, where you keep everything going to ensure future businesses are still there. And a lot of them, I mean, on my end, it's a lot of family owned. And so it's now you're supporting your family, you're supporting the business, you have to pay the mortgages, the rents, the lighting, the utilities. It's an endless amount. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think we need to be creative. We need to find new ways of doing things for a while at least. And this is our way to do something. Maybe it's not a lot, but it gives meaning, to be honest.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it renews hope, and ultimately people are looking for that connection, number one, and they're looking for hope that there is something to look forward to in the future.
Yeah, and also, I mean, Danish people are have never been aware about all these producers, right? So it's also I'm trying to tell them like you it's time to be local now, like more than ever. So try the local produce we have, and it's not producers they necessarily know. So it's turning everything around to focus on a different market right now. Actually, your own, own market, which is
it's similar here. I feel like it's a similar deal here. Generally speaking, in Denmark, is there, so beyond the example that you just shared that you're doing with your suppliers and general kind of the packages, is that a widespread theme in Denmark? Or a lot of other people doing the same thing?
It's starting now. I mean, the first thing that happened was that all restaurants start to deliver. Like you can get, I mean, we're in Denmark, we don't deliver things. We're a small country. That's not a big thing here. Now you can get everything delivered, which I love. You can get your wine and your ice cream. I mean, you can get everything delivered. So that was kind of what started first, right? When restaurants closed down, takeaway. So many communities of how to support that and made websites like to find all the alternatives. We have a new initiative called Support the Local, where you can pick up your groceries from the local farms around Copenhagen.
Wow.
I started the food gift. I saw another one starting something similar the other day with their own community, which is like amazing. Things are starting, absolutely. People are finding their way. A lot of cool things is also the whole live cooking, live gin tastings, you name it. I mean,
Yes.
yeah, it's cool.
Is that a plan for you as well?
No, not really. I mean, I'm a decent cook, but it's not what I'm good at. I like my food gifts, and I like to send that out. I'm gonna keep that.
Because
Let's see what happens.
Let's see what happens. You never know. All of a sudden, you're going live and you're teaching me how to make stuff, and I would tune in a second to make stuff.
To be honest, it could be actually cool to show how to cook Danish food, but let's see how long time this will.
Right. Let's be hopeful. But if it comes to that point where you're doing it on the side, besides
I will let you know.
Tours, please do, and I will promote like crazy. I was told by someone recently, and this is part of the question that I'm going to pose to you, but the Domino's of the world, and I don't want to name too many companies, but the big name chains that people are getting deliveries from, pizzas or chicken, they're always going to be there, for lack of a better kind of feeling. They're so big that they have the energy and the power and the money to survive. How important do you think is it now more than ever to kind of support the smaller guy and the smaller girl when you have these deliveries delivered to your home or apartment?
Yeah, it's now. Like, it's really now. If you don't do it now, you don't have localness after. It's really that way. I mean, so it's a choice. But for me, when every time you buy food, it's a choice of how you want the world to be, right? So it's a choice every day, what kind of food we want to have in the future. So it was also important before, but if you don't do it now, they won't be there after.
Do you feel like it's a strong push, it's gut reaction when this all finishes up and ends? Do you feel like local is really going to take off more so than before?
I hope so. I mean, it was a good start right now to be focused more on it. I think overall Copenhagen is really good at it, actually. But for sure, I think people will get a bigger knowledge about what they can actually find in their own market and like in the smaller producers, right? And that's the whole, I mean, that's the positive thing about this whole crisis. I mean, it feels like people support each other even more now, right? We need to do that to survive, and people understand that here. I'm so surprised about how it's working right now, to be honest, like in a good way. Yeah, I'm so positive because you just see so many people posting about support this guy. He has this little wine shop. Support this guy, and
it's
important. Amazing. Yeah. So let's hope it's just the beginning for that, and that's the push that local producers needed. Actually, maybe I don't know.
That's exactly right. A lot of businesses here. There was a stat that was released yesterday across the country in Canada. 800,000 restaurant service workers, just general those jobs are pretty much gone.
Yeah.
300,000 of which are in this province, Ontario itself. Probably a large portion of that is from Toronto. The government recently came out with a small business kind of game plan, where they would, incentives left, right, and center, to help kind of with bills. Has the government in like the city government in Copenhagen or the national government in Denmark, have come out? They come out with kind of a small business game plan to help small businesses like your own weather the storm, support financially in order to come out stronger when this is all kind of said and done, or have they done very little?
They have done a lot. They have actually done a lot. There are different initiatives, there are different packages, or what you call them, to receive. There's one for like where they, with 80% you're covered for rent and other stuff that you need to pay. And then you have a compensation for also your salary. And yeah, that's a lot of things going on right now. I would say, however, I mean, the biggest challenge, for now, as it looks now, restaurants will actually survive. They got like 3 months cover, like where the government will cover expenses, salaries, mortgage, stuff like that. 3 months for that. In terms of tourism, I mean, I'm really, really grateful for the help it's giving, because they are giving a lot. But for our industry, we are not looking at 3 months. This is a year. I mean, I'm refunding for the whole year right now.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest challenge. But I think the government here has been so active. They've been very action-packed. They have done a lot. They closed down very fast the country, which I really support. And new help packages. Do you call them that also?
Yep.
Okay. So it's coming all the time, but we are definitely getting help. Also the small companies. We are having a challenge with the small companies with a lot of investment, because they can't prove the same return on. They don't have the same turnover as we have. When you have big investments over. So that will be the next help packages.
Okay.
But for myself, I mean, for the next 3 months, we're safe. The same goes for restaurants. Restaurants get even more expensive covered than we do, because of the rent they have.
Right. Here the from what I've understood from restaurant owners, the government is supplying more loans as opposed to more grants. And a lot of restaurateurs, especially the small guys, are very irritated about that, because we're already going to have trouble. And I'm not speaking for any particular restaurant, but we're already going to have trouble, quote unquote, coming out of this.
Yeah.
We're already in trouble, and now you're giving us more loans to now have to pay back in time. And so that's why I figured to ask you, because it's kind of a very contentious issue here. There's support, but
but Denmark is a very democratic country, right? So that's a lot of help to get, which I'm grateful for, being a country like that, because it will mean that many people can survive with their business, right? So it's not alone. I mean, 3 months you're covered, more or less.
But just generally, I mean, you mentioned that you're refunding customers for the next year. I believe that. I am in the same boat. What does the future of travel look like in your opinion? And what does the future of the restaurant experience look like in your opinion?
Yeah, I wish I had all the answers, to be honest.
So do I.
I think the restaurants, I mean, for sure there are some restaurants that will not survive this, for sure. But I think most restaurants, at least in Copenhagen, Denmark, will, because of this, the help packages. They will. And to be honest, I think the experience will be even better after, because that's always when you have been in a crisis, you come on the other side, you truly appreciate what you have. So that way, I think the experience will be even better. Travel-wise, I'm trying to be positive. In the beginning, we didn't have any cancellations. Everything after June actually was safe, kind of, but it's starting to change now. We have many guests from the US, where it's, as far as I can see on television, is pretty critical. So of course, people are postponing to next year, 2021. They're asking about, of course, is it the same prices, what we can do, and as I encourage everyone is to like reschedule. Don't demand a refund. It will be the only way that small business survive. That is support and understanding right now.
Yeah.
And it's very different how people react in a crisis, and we have to also understand that is different. But yeah, and the travel after this, how will it be? I'm not sure. I mean, I understand people are not making the big plans this year. I wouldn't do neither, because the things are so insecure about. One thing is how your own country is doing, but working with what we do, we need to see how. I mean, yeah, you know.
I
So,
do. Yeah.
so I think it will, to be honest, I think it will take time, and I for sure. I think we will have some tours this year. There will be some travels, of course. I mean, Denmark is looking to open slowly mid-April. So I think we'll have some travels. I don't think we should expect the big show for 2020. I think 2021 will be our big year.
Yeah. Well, I think when peace of mind and people's trust and faith that they're flying on clean airplanes, they're driving in clean cars, the restaurants that they're going to have taken the precautions. A lot of people are talking about how if you have 20 tables in a restaurant, now it's going to be 10 because people want that distance.
All right, yeah.
The middle seat of every airplane now gets taken away just to create that space. Who knows what's going to happen?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Let's look. I don't hope it will be like that. Let's take it easy, right? I mean, but yeah, that maybe be the future. Let's see. It's also complicated in many ways.
It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And I will
Yeah.
let you know when I'm back. And we will, because I've always wanted to go to the Faroe Islands. I see photos and I see your experience pages. It looks phenomenal. And to be able to immerse yourself in the culture and the food and the experience and the people and create lasting relationships with people, that's what travel is all about.
Exactly. Friendships, and as I always say, food brings people together.
Food is the great unifier. Absolutely.
It is. Yeah, it really is.
Cindie Christiansen, Foods of Copenhagen, thank you so much for taking the time today. I know things are very hectic, so thank you for taking some time and speaking with me today. It's the Fact Up podcast, and you were a guest. So I thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Take care, stay safe, and all the best. I'm confident that everything will be coming up positive when this is all said and done.
It will. We will learn a lot from this, for sure.
Thank you so much, and stay safe.
Thank you so much.